Xin chào tất cả quý vị đã đến với kênh YouTube của Trần Michael. Bây giờ chúng ta đang coi cái cuộc họp báo trực tiếp từ Tòa Bạch Cung của Tổng thống Trump với ông Bộ trưởng Bobby Jr. và ông bác sĩ Oz về điều mà mọi người đã mong chờ từ rất lâu. Đó là những câu trả lời liên quan tới chứng bệnh tự kỷ. Xin mời quý vị cùng nghe. Lát nữa Trần Michael sẽ lược dịch. Xin mời quý vị.
Used to be 1 in 20,000.
Xin chào quý vị.
Then 1 in 10,000. And I would say that's probably 18 years ago. And now it's 1 in 31. But in some areas it's much worse than that, if you can believe it. 1 in 31. And I gave numbers yesterday. For boys, it's 1 in 12. I was told that's in California where they have for some reason, a more severe problem. But whether it's 1 in 12 or 1 in 31, can you imagine? That's down from 1 in 20,000 and 1 in 10,000. And now we're at the level of 1 in 12 in some cases for boys.
Tổng Trump đang nói về cái tỷ lệ mà trẻ bị mắc chứng bệnh tự kỷ tăng vọt trong vòng vài chục năm qua. Con số tăng lên tới là gấp 4 lần, 400%.
Complex situation. And the first day all of these great doctors behind me were there, I told them this is what we have to find out. Because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000 and then you go to 12, you know there's something artificial. They're taking something. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies that suggest that with the Amish, for example.
The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none. See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups. The Amish, as an example, they have essentially no autism.
Nhưng mà ví dụ như cộng đồng mà người Amish thì họ không có ai bị bệnh tự kỷ hết.
Well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay?
Acetaminophen,
which is basically commonly known as Tylenol.
Là thuốc Tylenol đó, Tylenol.
Pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism.
Nghiên cứu cho thấy là thuốc Tylenol có liên quan rất nhiều tới việc là tăng nguy cơ bị bệnh tự kỷ.
For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary.
Phụ nữ mang thai nên được khuyến cáo là rất hạn chế dùng thuốc Tylenol trong thai kỳ, trừ khi mà được bác sĩ kê toa.
It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. It can be something that's very dangerous to the woman's health. In other words, a fever that's very, very dangerous, and ideally a doctor's decision, because I think you shouldn't take it. And you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the entire. And you shouldn't give the child a Tylenol every time he's born. And
và không nên cho con của mình, mấy đứa nhỏ đó, thường nó bị gì là cho nó thuốc Tylenol, không nên làm như vậy.
While pregnant, so ideally you don't take it at all. But if you can't tough it out, if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it. The other thing that I can tell you that I'll say that they will maybe say at a little bit later date. But I think when you go for the shot, you do it over a 5-time period. Take it over 5 times or 4 times, but you take it in smaller doses and you spread it out over a period of years.
Ví dụ rồi ngoài ra, ví dụ như là có chích thuốc giảm đau thì là giảm cái liều, cái độ của thuốc xuống.
they're pumping. It looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little child, little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in.
Tổng thống nói là giống như là con nít á, chủng ngừa quá nhiều, nó cũng giống như là bơm thuốc vô người mấy đứa nhỏ.
It would be good instead of one visit where they pump the baby, load it up with stuff. You'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times. I've been so into this issue for so many years just because I couldn't understand how a thing like this could happen. And you know it's artificially induced. It's not like something that when you go from all of those, healthy babies to a point where I don't even know structurally if a country can afford it. And that's the least of the problems. To have families destroyed over this is just so terrible. I also, and we've already done this, we want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine. The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel. The mumps,
và Tổng thống Trump cũng yêu cầu là các thuốc chủng ngừa không được có các loại như là thủy ngân hay là aluminum là nhôm ở trong.
So there's no downside in taking them separately. In fact, they think it's better, so let it be separate. The chicken pox is already separate because when that got mixed in, I guess they made it for a while.
Và có một số những thuốc chủng ngừa không thể mix với nhau được, không có trộn pha với nhau được. Ví dụ như là cái chicken pox, như là cái bệnh đậu mùa, phải không quý vị? Thì cái đó là nó đã được tách ra rồi để riêng ra.
And it may not have that much of an impact, but it may have a big impact. So let those be taken separately. And then hepatitis B is sexually transmitted.
Hepatitis, như cái này là viêm gan, phải không ta? Không nhớ rõ nữa, cái này là
a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B.
Đúng rồi, viêm gan.
I would say wait till the baby is 12 years old and formed and take hepatitis B.
Đó, ví dụ như là để đứa nhỏ lớn lên cỡ 12 tuổi đó thì mới cho nó cái thuốc chủng ngừa viêm gan B. Tức là không có để cho một đứa nhỏ bị chích quá nhiều thuốc.
Symptoms. This gives hope to the many parents with autistic children that it may be possible to improve their lives. That's one of the things that I'm very, very happy about. I mean, this was mostly going to be on how not to have the child affected, but we've learned some pretty good things about certain elements of genius that can be given to a baby, and the baby can get better, and in some cases maybe substantially better. Not going to be easy, but be a lot easier if it didn't happen in the first place, as these great parents fully understand, right? They fully understand. I feel so terribly I have so many friends with autistic children. It's a tough situation. Finally, to help reach the ultimate goal of ending the autism fever, the NIH will be announcing 13 major grant awards from the Autism Data Science Initiatives.
Viện Y tế Quốc gia sẽ công bố 13 khoản viện trợ cho những nghiên cứu chuyên sâu về cái bệnh tự kỷ này nữa. Ngoài cái nghiên cứu mà được công bố ngày hôm nay là phụ nữ đang mang thai mà có uống thuốc Tylenol đó, là các loại acetaminophen đó, thì nó sẽ làm tăng nguy cơ gấp 4 lần để đẻ con ra bị bệnh chứng tự kỷ.
Fever is so bad you have to take one because there's no alternative to that. Sadly, first question, what can you take instead?
Và cũng như là ví dụ như các bị bệnh sốt đi, thì ngoài cái Tylenol ra thì mình còn thể uống cái thuốc gì nữa hay không? Họ sẽ nghiên cứu cái loại đó. Bây giờ ông Bộ trưởng Bobby Jr. sẽ phát biểu. Rồi tới bác sĩ Oz. Rồi sẽ có 2 vị phụ huynh, 2 bà mẹ sẽ phát biểu về cái thuốc Tylenol và bệnh tự kỷ.
and they have virtually no autism. Okay, tell me about that one.
Tổng thống nói là ở Cuba nó nghèo quá, không có mua thuốc Tylenol được, nhưng mà đổi lại thì không có đứa trẻ bị tự kỷ.
And I want to say it right now. And you know the way I look at it.
Không mà cũng đúng thiệt. Không mà
There's
phụ nữ Việt Nam á, thì gia đình Việt Nam thì ít ai mà bầu mà bị uống Tylenol lắm. Ít lắm. Mà Mỹ thì ta uống nhiều.
That's the way I feel. I've been very strong on the subject for a long time. You know, life is common sense too, and there's a lot of common sense in this. And I wish things like this were brought up. And this group has worked so hard on it, but I'd like to be a little bit more, a little speedier in the process of a recommendation, because there's no harm in going quicker. There's absolutely no harm. At worst, there's no harm. Thank you very much. Bobby, please.
Rồi bây giờ tới ông Bộ trưởng Bobby.
To meet the President's challenge, I ordered HHS to launch an unprecedented all-agency effort to identify all causes of autism, including toxic and pharmaceutical exposures. At President Trump's urging, NIH, FDA, CDC, and CMS are turning over every stone to identify the etiology of the autism epidemic and how patients and parents can prevent
Đây là
and
nghiên
reverse
cứu
this
của Bộ Y
alarming
tế,
trend.
của Viện Y tế Quốc gia, cơ quan Medicare, Medicaid, CDC và FDA.
Historically, NIH has focused almost solely on politically safe and entirely fruitless research about the genetic drivers of autism. And that would be like studying the genetic drivers of lung cancer without looking at cigarettes. And that's what NIH has been doing for 20 years. As a result, we don't have an answer to this critical question, despite the cataclysmic impact of the epidemic on our nation's children. We are now replacing the institutional culture of politicized science and corruption with evidence-based medicine. NIH research teams are currently testing multiple hypotheses with no area off limits. We promise transparency as we uncover
những nghiên cứu nó không có giống như là mấy chục năm nay làm là bị chánh trị hóa, mà họ sẽ đưa ra tất cả những giả thuyết để họ test, họ nghiên cứu, không có điểm dừng.
First, HHS will act on acetaminophen. The FDA is responding to clinical and laboratory studies that suggests a potential association between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and adverse neurodevelopmental outcomes, including later diagnosis for ADHD and autism. Scientists have proposed biological mechanisms linking prenatal acetaminophen exposure to altered brain development. We have also evaluated the contrary studies that show no association. Today, the FDA will issue a physician's notice about the risk of acetaminophen during pregnancy and begin the process to initiate a safety label change. HHS will launch a nationwide
Họ sẽ đưa ra cái thông báo chính thức về cái nghiên cứu của cái thuốc acetaminophen với cái bệnh tự kỷ, và cũng sẽ phải làm thay đổi ở trên cái nhãn thuốc luôn, là phải có cái câu đó để nói rằng là ai mà có bầu đó thì hạn chế uống cái thuốc này, vì nó sẽ làm tăng nguy cơ đẻ con là bị tự kỷ.
And the use of acetaminophen for fevers and pain in pregnancy by prescribing the lowest effective dose for the shortest necessary duration and only when treatment is required. Furthermore, thanks also to the politicization of science, the safety of acetaminophen against the risk of neurodevelopmental disorders in young children has never been validated. Prudent medicine, therefore, suggests caution in acetaminophen use of young children, especially since strong evidence also has associated it with liver toxicity. Some studies have also found the use of acetaminophen in children can
acetaminophen mà cho con nít xài á, uống á, nó sẽ làm nó có dấu hiệu bằng chứng mạnh mẽ là những đứa nhỏ nó sớm bị những cái disorder, những cái rối loạn về tinh thần.
Infants and toddlers, our research has revealed that folate deficiency in a child's brain can lead to autism. We have also identified an exciting therapy that may benefit large numbers of children who suffer from autism. Peer-reviewed literature has documented that up to 60% of folate-deficient children with ASD can have improved verbal communications if given leucovorin. I have instructed NIH, FDA, and CMS to help doctors treat children appropriately. Jay will help tell that story, which started with sound science, the kind that restores faith in government. This announcement also represents a historic collaboration between NIH, FDA, CDC, and CMS. We expect this to be the first of many announcements over the coming years that deliver
Cái
actionable
nghiên cứu
information
này
to parents
chưa có
on
chấm
the
hết. Họ
underlying
sẽ
cause of
trong vài năm
autism
sắp
and
tới
the
có
potential
những cái
paths
thông
for
báo nữa
prevention
về
and
những nghiên
reversal.
cứu chuyên sâu và
Finally,
rộng rãi về chứng
autism
bệnh
is a
này.
complex disorder with multifactorial etiology. We are continuing to investigate a multiplicity of potential causes with no areas of taboo. One area that we are closely examining, as the President mentioned, is vaccines. Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. President Trump believes that we should be
Hình
listening
như
to
là
these
có
mothers instead of
40-50% gì
gaslighting
đó những phụ
and
nữ có con bị
marginalizing them
tự
like
kỷ
prior
tin rằng là con
administrations.
họ bị như vậy là
Some of
do
our
tác động
friends like
của
to say that we should
vaccine.
believe all women. But some of these same people have been silencing and demonizing these mothers for 3 decades. Because research on the
Nhưng mà
potential
những
link
bà
between
mẹ này thì
autism
lại
and
bị bôi
vaccines
nhọ
has
trong
been
mấy chục năm,
actively
30 năm.
suppressed in the past. It will take time for an honest look at this topic by scientists. But I want to reassure the people in the autism community that we will be uncompromising and relentless in our search for answers. We will perform the studies that should have been performed 25 years ago. Whatever the answer is, we will tell you what we find.
Họ sẽ
We
thực
are
hiện một cái
researching
nghiên
this
cứu
issue
đáng lẽ đã
all
làm
3 agencies.
25 năm
Jay will
trước
discuss one
và
of our
kết quả là
research
gì
initiatives
họ
at
vẫn sẽ công
NIH.
bố cho mọi người.
This model of unleashing unbiased, depoliticized, gold standard scientific research and academic freedom to deliver actionable information to prevent and reverse disease will be a model for the framework to deliver similar results from many other chronic conditions that plague Americans. Jay?
Thank you, Secretary Kennedy.
Về ông Bhattacharya, Giám đốc Viện Y tế Quốc
I'm
gia.
proud to announce today that the NIH has launched the Autism Data Science Initiative to turbocharge autism research, devoting an
Viện cũng sẽ
additional $50 million
công bố một
to
cái
the
sáng
cause of
kiến
studying autism.
là
Nearly 250
cái
research teams
khoa
from
học
across the country
dựa trên dữ liệu về bệnh tự
applied,
kỷ.
sent in their applications and were peer reviewed by the NIH review panels. The NIH peer reviewers chose the 13 best projects focused on root causes and therapies with replication and validation studies to guarantee gold standard science. The studies feature a new kind of science called exposomics, where scientists consider environmental and medical factors, nutrition, events during pregnancy, in combination with biology and genetics to answer vital questions about autism. Science like this, conducted in partnership with families and physicians, is the best way to arrest and reverse the autism epidemic. Autism spectrum disorder encompasses a very wide range of symptoms, ranging from mild difficulties with social interactions to profoundly autistic children who experience severe disabilities in speech and behavior. Given this wide range of symptoms across the spectrum, it seems certain that there will be a wide range of biological contributors to explaining the cause. The great thing about the new NIH initiative on autism is that scientists will use rigorous advanced methods in causal inference, machine learning, organoids, and other fresh approaches to the problem. The sharp rise in the prevalence of autism deserves an urgent response by the scientific community. As Bobby said, the NIH has invested a lot of money to study autism over the years, but the research has not produced the answers that families and parents of
Những cái
autistic
nghiên
children
cứu đã được
deserve,
thực hiện
and
trước
autistic
đây nhưng
children
mà nó
themselves
không
deserve.
có
For too
câu trả
long,
lời
it's
đàng
been
hoàng.
taboo to ask some questions for fear the scientific work
Và
might
riết
reveal a
là người
politically
ta
incorrect
nếu mà
answer.
đặt câu hỏi thì lại bị cấm
Because of
đoán.
this restricted focus in scientific investigations, the answers for families have been similarly restricted, often pointing families to behavioral therapies that don't work for every kid or suggest non-modifiable genetic factors as the cause. But genetics alone can't explain such a sharp rise in autism prevalence over the just a few decades, as the president said. In coming months and years, as NIH scientists learn more that can help autistic children and their families, we won't delay. Like scientists often like to do, I can say as a scientist myself, it's really tempting to delay, but but in face of a problem like this, you have to move fast. But we will not delay before telling American people about what we find, and we will win the public trust with transparency and rigor. Already, our broadened focus on autism research has pointed to 2 items that will help families prevent and treat some cases of autism. I'll leave the good news on these 2 items to my close friends and colleagues, Dr. McCary and Dr. Oz. We've been working together closely on this problem for the past 6 months, and our cooperation represents an unprecedented collaboration with Secretary Kennedy's Department of Health and Human Services and with President Trump. I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Marty McCary, Commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, who will tell you about these announcements of practical help for families with autism.
Sẽ có 2 cái để mà giúp đỡ cho những ai bị
Great, thank you,
gia đình nào có con bị
Dr.
tự kỷ thì
Mr.
sẽ có 2
President,
cái
this
ông
is the
giám
start
đốc
of a
FDA
historic
sẽ công
shift
bố.
in medical culture. This administration is working together to ask big questions about why our nation's children are getting sick so fast. Too often, medicine is doing small little studies, giving us answers we already knew. But we've got to make a difference. You've given us a charge to identify root causes, and we are not going to stop so that we can end the suffering we are watching. And if you've seen a kid with autism, with severe autism, it's hard to watch. Kids get frustrated, they get angry, they can be crying because they want to speak and they can't speak. It's hard to watch, and it may be entirely preventable. For an epidemiologist, that child is an expanding statistic. But for a child, it can be brutal to have autism. Today, the FDA is taking action to update the label on acetaminophen and sending a letter to all U.S. doctors letting them know about the risks in pregnancy. We now have data we cannot ignore. There's a very large study, the Boston Birth Cohort, with researchers that have, from Johns Hopkins, my former institution, and Boston University, found quote-unquote consistent associations between acetaminophen in pregnancy and autism. And the Nurses' Health Study with researchers from Yale, Columbia, and Harvard looking at 9,000 kids found that acetaminophen use in pregnancy was associated with neurodevelopmental disorders. And 4 weeks ago, a Mount Sinai Harvard study reviewed all the existing literature and found the overwhelming body of evidence points to an association. Sure, you'll be able to find a study to the contrary. That's how science works. But to quote the dean of the Harvard School of Public Health, there is a causal relationship between prenatal acetaminophen use and neurodevelopmental disorders of ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. We cannot wait any longer.
Y tế công của Harvard
And
là có
honestly,
bằng
there's
chứng
been
rất
this
rõ ràng
perfunctory,
về việc là
reactionary,
gì prenatal, tức
mindless
là những người phụ nữ mà cái
practice in medicine.
tiền
I
thai
learned it
kỳ
in
đó
medical school
mà
and
có
residency.
uống
Just treat all fevers, low-grade fevers, treat them
là
with acetaminophen.
có nguy
Why?
cơ
What are we
con
doing?
đẻ ra bị
A study
tự
out of
kỷ.
Hopkins actually showed that treating a fever can prolong the duration of illness in a young kid. Maybe that's because a fever is a body's natural way of ridding an infection. When my wife was pregnant and delivered our son a few months ago, they pushed her to take acetaminophen for a low-grade fever. She said no, and then they looked to me and I said,
Giờ ổng từ chối uống cái thuốc đó.
no.
Lúc đó bà có bầu, bà cũng
I'm
bị
also
sốt.
here to announce
Bác sĩ
good
kêu uống, bà
news.
không uống.
Today, the FDA is filing a Federal Register notice to change the label on an exciting treatment called prescription leucovorin so that it can be available to children with autism. You know, autism may also be due to an autoimmune reaction to a folate receptor on the brain, not allowing that important vitamin to get into the brain cells. It's a fairly established, mature pathway. Again, we have a duty to let doctors and the public know. We are going to change the label to make it available. Hundreds of thousands of kids, in my opinion, will benefit. One study found that with kids with autism and chronic folate deficiency, two-thirds of kids with autism symptoms had improvement, and some marked improvement.
Cái nhãn thuốc.
Mr. President, you told us to do what's medically right, to go bold, and not worry about the corporations and the lobbyists. So that's what we're here doing today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Kỳ này mấy hãng thuốc điên với ông Trump.
Thanks, Marty. I think you all appreciate the passion in the President's voice. We've been hearing that since the inauguration.
Giờ là bác sĩ Oz.
In fact, even before the inauguration, the President was upset about what he spoke to today. And so together with Secretary Kennedy, who's made it his life's work to address some of these challenges with autism, they challenged us. In fact, they were harsher than that. They wanted no silos to break down what the NIH would do, what the FDA would do, what CMS would do. They insisted that the physician leaders bust through the clutter because their agencies had the power if we didn't do what every other prior administration had done, which is to let people function within their siloed environments. Because of that, in historic fashion and a very accelerated manner, we have a response today to the autism crisis. It is the first of several chapters, but this is breaking
Hôm nay
news.
chỉ
You've
là cái
heard
chương
some
đầu
of it.
tiên thôi.
The response to the
Sẽ còn
autism
nhiều
crisis
chương
is going to
nữa
continue
về
to
cái bệnh
come
này
to you
và
under
những bệnh
Secretary
khác.
Kennedy's leadership, and the president wouldn't have it any other way, as you've heard. The FDA, based on NIH research, is approving prescription leucovorin for treatment of autistic children. Now, if you're following the script, there should be two questions that you have. Two questions that should come to your mind. The first is, how will patients and parents get access to the treatment? I'll tell you how. Over half of American children are covered
Ai
by
có con
Medicaid,
bị tự kỷ
government
làm
health
theo
insurance. Over half.
nghiên cứu thử cái thuốc
Therefore, because they're
glucovorin,
covered,
rồi Michael có
Medicaid
viết
ship
trên cái
upon this
lá
label
chát
change by
glucovorin.
Marty, state Medicaid programs in partnership with CMS will cover prescription leucovorin around the country. It's yours, but you have to go to a doctor to get a prescription because they know your
Và
child, they
chính
know
phủ
you,
sẽ
and they
hỗ
know
trợ
the
cái tiền đó.
medication. States
Hỗ
will
trợ
also have
nha,
tools to
không phải bao
monitor
hết,
its
hỗ
use
trợ
and
nha.
ensure appropriate utilization. That's important for a bunch of reasons because we want the right kids getting the right prescription medications. We believe private insurance companies will rapidly follow our lead if they have not already done so. And again, to make sure that this is safe and effective treatment, you need a physician to prescribe the medication because it's on prescription. Second big question. How are we going to collect clinical data to answer the big questions that the president is asking and the secretary insists that we offer? CMS is also issuing guidance to convene states and existing research networks to support NIH and FDA in their research efforts of prescription leucovorin, while also maintaining the privacy of all patients, all health information of our
Họ sẽ
beneficiaries.
phát triển một cái hệ thống cơ sở dữ liệu về cái thuốc này và trừ tự kỷ, nhưng mà vẫn bảo mật thông tin của các bệnh nhân.
Over the next few months with this approach. The aggressive approach, and it is aggressive, demanded by the president and by the secretary, have already identified risk factors and opened the door for the first FDA recognized treatment pathway for autism. It is the first of its kind, and it wouldn't have happened without the leadership of the president and the secretary. The fivefold increased prevalence of autism over the past 25 years demands a rapid response. The average clinician, researcher, we spoke to many, thought it would take 5 years to get this data. Parents are unwilling to wait 5 years. The president is unwilling to wait 5 years for these results. So the president and the secretary are acting today with this tri-agency move. The administration's bold actions investing in groundbreaking research follow the science, they restore trust, which has been lacking, and they will change the trajectory for millions of American families. Mr. President, God bless you for being brave. Let me introduce Dr. Fink, who's acting administrator, and after Dr. Fink, we've got some wonderful women, Jackie and Amanda. I know it's going to be tough, but if you can make some comments about this
Giờ
historic
sẽ
day,
mời
God
một số
bless you.
bác sĩ lên để nói về bệnh này tiếp.
Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity to speak with all of you today. As a pediatrician and mom, I am here today to talk about what this announcement means for the millions of moms and dads who are faced with the choice of whether to take acetaminophen during pregnancy. It's hard to hear information that challenges the status quo. We are sharing this information not to confuse, but to empower parents to make the best choices when taking medications during pregnancy. We are all concerned about the rising rates of neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism. President Trump and Secretary Kennedy are dedicated to radical transparency so that patients have the best, most up-to-date information. We are also sharing this information with our nation's doctors, and we encourage you, as always, to consult with your doctor to make the best decision for you. All too often, it's easy to think that medicines we buy without a prescription pose little to no risk for the mom or the baby. As you heard today, pregnant women who need high fever or pain reduction during pregnancy should take the lowest effective dose of acetaminophen for the shortest possible duration. Most women will not meet these indications during their pregnancies.
Phụ nữ có thai nếu phải uống thuốc đó chỉ uống
I am
liều
encouraged by
thấp
these
nhất,
developments today
liều ít
because it
nhất
is another
và
example
uống
of our commitment
ngắn
to the
nhất có
American
thể.
people to leave
Thuốc
no stone unturned
Tylenol hay là
in
acetaminophen
improving
đó,
the health
ít
of our
nhất
nation's children.
và ngắn nhất nha.
Next, I'm going to turn it over to some incredible mothers who are going to share more about their stories, and we're so grateful to have you here today.
Bây giờ tiếp tục là một bà mẹ, chắc là có con bị bệnh rồi. Bà này đang có
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President and team, for all your work. This is an historic day, and I'm thankful to be here. I have a son who's 5 who is profoundly autistic, and you've probably heard if you've met one autistic child, you've met one autistic
Bà này
child.
có một đứa
It's a
con trai 5
spectrum,
tuổi đang bị
which
tự
I don't
kỷ.
think the spectrum is helpful, but that's another conversation. He is an amazing little boy, a blessing from God. He's marvelous. He can count to 1,000. He knows all of his letters and the sounds they make and a word for each one. But he also has a lot of obstacles. He is nonverbal. He can say those numbers and letters, but there's no communication. Unless you've lived
Thằng bé có thể
with profound autism, you have no
đếm
idea.
được, nhưng mà nó
You
không
have
chịu
no
nói chuyện,
idea.
nó không nói chuyện được.
He, like you said, he will get frustrated because he can't speak.
Nhưng mà
It's not even that he
nó
can't speak.
rất
Sometimes
muốn
he
nói
just
nhưng mà
doesn't
nó không
understand
được.
what I'm saying.
Đếm
He
được nhưng mà
understands the
nói
word
không được.
no, but he doesn't understand the why behind the no. And that's a huge part of discipline. That's the discipline. So it's very hard to discipline a child with autism so you have these behaviors. And it's very hopeless feeling. And
Và
it's
cảm
very
giác
isolating
rất
being a parent
là
with
vô
a
vọng.
profound autistic child.
Rồi làm cha
Even
mẹ
just
này
taking
đau
them over
lắm,
to
gì?
your friend's
Đau lắm.
house is something we just don't do because, again, they're going to be met with no, 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 and no understanding of why. And then there's a meltdown. And then you're in a situation where you're just helpless and you're just trying to protect your kid. So it's just better not to do it. You learn your limits, and it's been really hard. This is amazing that we're here today. And no one has been able to point to anything to say this is what caused it. And you can't point to that and say it didn't cause it. I have no idea. I'm completely open. I'm not blaming anything, but I'm open to the discussion and the fact that there's work being done to find answers. I'm very grateful. I was already excited to vote for Mr. Trump anyway, Mr. President. But when we got word of RFK doing his work, I was ecstatic. I could not wait for this work to be done.
Bà này
If
là một
somebody
cử
would try
tri
to
của
find
Tổng
some
thống Trump
answers.
nhưng mà rất là
I'm just very grateful.
mong đợi công việc của ông Bobby
Pray
Jr.
for my
làm
son
về
every
cái
day
bệnh tự kỷ
and
này. Bà
hope that
ấy
he can
rất
get the help
là
that he needs.
mở lòng ra
Yeah, just
để
thank you.
chấp nhận những
Thank you
cái
very
nghiên
much.
cứu nhưng mà đó giờ không tìm được câu trả lời và hôm nay có được một câu trả lời bà ấy rất là mừng.
Hi, my name is Jackie. I'm also extremely grateful for the opportunity to be here and share my son's story. My son is Eddie. He's 11. He's on the opposite end of the spectrum from what Amanda just explained. He's considered high functioning. He was not always high functioning. He was nonverbal till the age 4. We've
Bà
had
này thì là con lại bị tăng động.
quite a hard time to get to the place where we are
Con bà
today.
này thì ngược với con bà kia.
I am just
Con bà
so
kia là
grateful
nó không có nói được
to
luôn, còn
President
thằng này
Trump
nó
and
là
the
bị tăng
entire
động luôn.
administration for finally listening to moms who have been crying out
Bởi
for
vì
help
cái thuốc
for
này nó làm
answers
cho
for
là
years.
họ nói là cái
I've met so many
autism chỉ là
other
một
moms with
dạng của cái
children on the
disorder
spectrum
thôi, mà
in the 9
disorder thì có thể
years
là
since my son's
nó quá
diagnosis.
nhiều hoặc là quá ít.
And they all have very
Nó
similar
không nói gì hết
stories.
hoặc là nó quá
And
nhiều,
they've
nó
all
không làm gì hết, nó
just
quậy
wanted
quá
somebody
nhiều.
to listen, to not ridicule them or look at them like they were the crazy people. It's hard when you don't have doctors that take the time to really listen and find out when the change happened and what change happened and it's just I've been praying for this day for 9 years and I'm so thankful to God for bringing the administration into our lives and I'm speechless. This day is a day I never thought would happen I thought that we would never have an administration that was courageous
Bà
enough
đã từng tuyệt vọng,
to
không
look
nghĩ
into
là
things
sẽ có
that
một ngày như
no
thế này.
prior
Và hôm nay bà rất
administration
mừng
had. So
là
I'm just
đã
here to express my gratitude,
được
and
tìm được một
I
câu
am
trả lời
looking
cho
forward
con
to
của
what
bà.
comes from this, and hopefully we just get more answers. So thank you.
Và hy vọng là sẽ có thêm những câu trả lời nữa.
So I just want to say acetaminophen is basically Tylenol, essentially, because I noticed that term is used throughout this conference. So it's essentially Tylenol. And I just recommend strongly that you don't use Tylenol unless it's absolutely necessary. I understand it's maybe 10% of the women that are pregnant are, would perhaps be forced to use it. And that would mean you just can't tough it out. No matter what you do, you can't tough it out. So that's up to you and your doctor. But there's a very strong recommendation.
Tổng thống nói là dù gì thì vẫn là cái sự tham vấn của bác sĩ với lại thai phụ. Nhưng mà khuyến cáo là đừng nên dùng, đừng uống Tylenol.
If you just can't, I mean, it's fight like hell not to take it. There may be a point where you have to, and
nếu mà chịu không nổi thì mới uống thôi, chứ đừng có bệnh cái là uống, bệnh cái là uống.
Other things that we recommend, or certainly I do anyway, is, and it's so important to me, to see the doctor 4 times or 5 times for a vaccine. Don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff you've ever seen in your life.
Và không phải lần nào đưa con đi khám bác sĩ cũng là cho họ chích thuốc vô người con mình hết.
2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you just break it up into, I would say 5, but let's say 4 visits to the doctor instead of 1. And certain things I think you should do. We've already taken out and are in the process of taking out mercury and aluminum now. You know what mercury is, you know what aluminum is. Who the hell wants that pumped into a body?
Dạ, phải những cái loại vaccine nào mà có thủy ngân với lại nhôm đó là họ sẽ yêu cầu bỏ ra hết.
We're having them taken out of the vaccines. Hepatitis B, again, that's sexually transmitted. And we think you should wait. I think you should wait till 12. I'm making these statements from me. I'm not making them from these doctors.
Và cái vaccine mà thuốc
they talk about
viêm gan B,
different results, different
đừng có cho mấy đứa nhỏ chích sớm quá.
I talk about a lot of common sense.
Khoảng là 12 tuổi.
They have that too, a lot. But I recommend the hepatitis B. Take it at 12.
12 tuổi.
Sexually transmitted. You don't have to give it to the baby when the baby's 2 years old. And there are a lot of theories on that, but not when they're 12.
Đó là vào cái khoảng thời gian mà
doesn't seem to be a problem at all.
Nó chuẩn bị
the MMR
sexually transmitted.
And the chickenpox. Chickenpox has already been broken out. It's a singular shot, but the MMR is not. And I've heard for years that there's a problem with it.
Và cái
but
loại
they say that there's no problem if you do each shot separately, not put together. So an MMR, go out and do it
ba loại.
Don't take Tylenol. Don't give Tylenol to the baby after the baby's born. Every time the baby gets a shot, the baby gets a shot. They say, here, take a cup of Tylenol. I've heard that for years. Take Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. Don't have your baby take Tylenol. Now, Tylenol is fine for people that aren't pregnant, that aren't in a situation that we're talking about. One very specific situation. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. When you have your baby, don't give your baby Tylenol at all, unless it's absolutely necessary. Don't do it. Break up your visits to the doctors. Break them up. Do it in 5 if you can. Now, it's inconvenient. It's inconvenient. You're going to have to go back another year later. You're going to go back each year for 4 years, 5 years, 3 years. Just break it up. Break it up. Because it's too much liquid. Too many different things are going into that baby at too big a number. The size of this thing, when you look at it, it's like 80 different vaccines and beyond vaccines, and 80. Then you give that to a little kid. I mean, I can tell you that I had a woman who worked for me, a beautiful, wonderful woman, worked in Trump Tower, and she had the most perfect child, beautiful, just perfect. And I remember this little blonde-haired boy running around the lobby of Trump Tower, so healthy and so vibrant. And I said, that's great. And one day I came in and she was crying her eyes out behind the counter. She worked at the front desk. She was crying her eyes out. I've never, as much as I've ever seen anyone distraught, she was. I said, are you okay? What happened? My boy, I've lost my boy. What does that mean, your boy? My boy, you know him, sir. You've seen him grow up. He was so beautiful. And I took him for a vaccine, sir. And he developed this unbelievable, I think she said 107, 108. You know, it goes well beyond when this happens. It goes up to 106, 107, 108. You know, we hear 105 and you're in trouble, but it just goes up to a level that you never hear about, but it goes up very high. And it's fried. They get fried. She said, I took him, he developed an unbelievable temperature. And I've lost him, sir. He's gone. And then I saw the boy. It was so tragic to see.
Ông Trump kể về
That
chuyện
was the
của một nhân
following
viên
day.
cũ của ông
That was the
có
following
một đứa
day
con
after the
trai
vaccine.
rất là tuyệt
And
vời.
I've seen it 2 other
Nhưng
times.
mà
And I think 3 other times,
sau
but 2
đó
other
không biết
times,
chủng ngừa cái thuốc
where
gì
they
đó
go to the
mà tự nhiên
doctor,
sốt
they get
cao
the
quá,
vaccine, they
đi
get the
luôn,
shot, the kid
đi luôn.
is,
Ông Trump kể về cái
badly
chuyện
hurt. Let's be
nhân
nice,
viên của ông bị
badly
mất
hurt.
con như thế nào.
And just do it. Break it up into 5, break it up into 4, break it up into 3 if you have to, but go to the doctor 4 times instead of once, or 5 times.
Yêu cầu
instead
là
of
thuốc
once.
chủng ngừa là phải chích từng
And
đợt,
for some reason
chứ
they
không có
insist
thể
that
nào mà
you put it
gom
all
nhiều
into
mũi là
the
chích một
body,
lượt
and
như
maybe
vậy
that's
được.
the drug companies that make more money that way. Maybe it's the doctors because they don't want to be, doing this so much. Maybe it's the doctors. They get maybe more money. Who the hell knows what it is? Don't do it. Get them broken into 4 or 5 visits. Do it 4 or 5. That means you have 20%, 25% what you're putting into the baby's body. It can only help. Can only help. And the other things I told you about, just the word tough it out. It's easy for me to say tough it out, but sometimes in life with a lot of other things you have to tough it out also. Don't take Tylenol. Don't give Tylenol to the baby. When the baby's born, they throw it at you. Here, give them a couple of Tylenol. They give them a shot. They give them a vaccine. And every time they give them a vaccine, they're throwing Tylenol. And some of these babies, they're long born, and all of a sudden they're gone. And it doesn't hurt not to do it. It doesn't hurt. There's no downside. There's no downside at all.
Tổng thống nói rằng là có những cái thuốc không chích,
It's
không uống,
practically a known
cũng không
fact
có
that
gì
if
nguy
you
hiểm
break it
hết.
up, you're not going to have a problem.
Không nhất thiết phải là cứ
But
chích
for years
thuốc.
we've been hearing how bad MMR is as a combination. And I'm very happy that you broke out chickenpox because that was really a
Nó bị sốc
problem.
thuốc á quý vị, sốc thuốc.
And there are other things. It's interesting because there are
Sốc
other
phản vệ,
things.
đúng rồi, là gọi là sốc phản
We were
vệ.
talking about it, other different drugs, pills that you take that we know are so bad and they don't take them anymore. But for some reason,
Và cũng như đặc
with
biệt
this
là
they
cái
keep
loại mà
taking it.
MMR, tức là
Don't
3 loại
take
sởi, quai bị và
Tylenol.
rubella.
there's
Cẩn
no
thận.
downside. Don't take it.
Đó.
You'll be uncomfortable. It won't be as easy, maybe. But don't take it. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. And don't give it to the baby after the baby is born. And you know what? We have more than 3 years left. And I told Bobby and the doctors behind me, and they are so committed to this, I told them that this is the number one thing I want to do from you. And we have something else called Favored Nations, where I'm going to be reducing drug prices by 1,000%, by 900, 600, 500, 1,200. We're going to be reducing drug prices at levels never seen. It's called Favored Nations. We're going to be paying what right now, we're like the garbage can for the rest of the world, and we have been for forever. We pay much higher for drugs than the rest of the world. We subsidize the rest of the world. We're not doing that anymore. And that's a big thing. That's a big thing. That's bigger than anything. I told the story the other night that I was so proud in my first term that for the final year, drug prices went down 0.25%. And I was so proud. I said, why? I'm the first one to do it. I think it was 28 years, they said, where drug prices went down from the beginning of the term to the end.
Tao hôn
And I
trầm
was
lên
so
cái là giá
proud. I
thuốc
called the
giảm
news conference.
1/4
I said,
thế
you
giờ.
know, drug prices have gone down. First time it's happened in 28 years. You know what it was? One
Lần đầu
quarter
tiên
of
trong vòng
1%. I was so
28
proud.
năm là vì
Now we're
thuốc
going to have
giảm
go
giá
down from
rất rõ ràng.
$100 a pill to $9 a pill. From
Có những loại thuốc mà
$1,300 for
100 đồng
a
một
shot
viên giờ
of-
còn 9 đồng viên.
like an Ozempic or the fat, I call it the fat pill or the fat drug. Sometimes it works, I guess, for people. The ones I've seen, it hasn't worked so well. I got a lot of friends, they're fat. They said, yeah, I lost some weight. I said, you don't look it to me. But they pay $1,300, $1,200, and they go to London and they pay $88. And they call me, they go, what's this all about? We're subsidizing the rest of the world
Đặc
stupidly
biệt nữa là
because
cái
there are a lot of
thuốc mà
stupid
thuốc
people in this country running
bị
things.
tiểu đường á,
And how big is that?
là
But to me,
giảm
that's
rất là nhiều
nothing
luôn.
compared to autism. I see that gorgeous boy. I have a big present for him in the back. You know, you bring him back. We're going to bring him into the Oval Office. I have the best present he's ever going to get, okay? A big one. I saved it for you, okay? Because I heard you were coming. Look how beautiful he is. So, that's it.
Con cậu bé nào ta?
There's nothing much to say. Don't take Tylenol if you're pregnant. And don't give Tylenol to your child when he's born or she's born. Don't give it. Just don't give it. And we're going to have, I think, really, if you do all the things that I say, break it up. Just break it up. Break up the shots with the doctor. MMRs, as I told you, separate. Chickenpox already separate. You do these things. I'm telling you, I want it when I leave office. I don't want to have, it's going to be the kind of number that we're hearing where it's 1 in 32 or 1 in 10, because I've heard 1 in 10 also. And in California, it's really bad. I want it to be, let's get it back to maybe 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 20,000 or maybe none in 20,000. And the only way you're going to do that, because this is artificially induced. This is induced by something. You don't go from 1 in 20,000 to 1 in 10,000, then to 1 in 10. That means you're taking something and something's wrong. And I feel very certain, and I know I'll be criticized. Someday they'll look back and they'll say, well, it wasn't, but I think it will. I think we're going to have a tremendous, this is the most important. There's nothing more important than me. We cured inflation that Biden gave us. He gave us so much inflation, the biggest ever in history. We got inflation done. We brought prices down. We gave you the largest tax cuts. All that stuff, it doesn't mean a thing compared to what we're doing today. This means everything. So we're going to save a lot of children from a tough life, really tough life. We're going to save a lot of parents from a tough life. Okay, how about a few questions? Let's just make it on this subject. This is so beyond as a subject that I'd rather not talk about, you know,
Giờ là tới phần trả lời câu
nonsense
hỏi.
on the economy. And I will say this, the economy is unbelievable. The stock market just hit another record high and all that stuff. This means more to me. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, I have one on your announcement, one on vaccines that's also related.
Yes.
Why do you think we haven't heard more previously about the tie to autism in acetaminophen?
Nobody knows. I don't know. Not only that, when you say it, you get attacked. I was saying something similar, not as strongly, because now facts are on our side. But I was saying it with Bobby 20 years ago, and I was attacked. I said, whoa, what was that all about? I had no idea. You get attacked. I don't know. The medical community, the drug companies, doctors. I don't know what it is. All I want to do, I don't care. I don't care about being attacked. It doesn't matter to me. I believe that the numbers at the end of our term or shortly thereafter could be really phenomenal. I want it to go up just like it came down to this horrible level. 1 in 10, 1 in 12. I was told 1 in 10. I was told 1 in 12. Today I heard 1 in 31 if you add the girls and the boys together. It's crazy. And it was 1 in 10,000 and 1 in 20,000. It's not even sustainable for a country. You want to know the truth. And there
Tức
are other
là
places
cái
that don't
tỷ
have
lệ
it.
mà trẻ bị tự kỷ, ví dụ như là 1 trên 12, 1 trên 10 hay là 1 trên 31, nếu như mà cộng con gái lại, cái con số đó là quá tệ. Tại sao chúng ta trước đó là gì 1 trên 20.000 hoặc là 1 trên 10.000 mà bây giờ nó thành như vậy, tức là phải có cái gì đó nó bị sai. Thì hôm nay họ tìm ra câu trả lời là Tylenol và các loại thuốc acetaminophen.
That's one of the canards that has been promoted by the industry for many years, that it's changed diagnostic criteria, better recognition. But there's been study after study done of that completely debunks that. One of them by the Mind Institute at UC Davis, University of California. But also it's just common sense.
Nhưng mà thực sự ra thì người Việt Nam của mình á, khi mà phụ nữ có thai rồi họ rất là sợ uống thuốc, kể cả người thân cũng vậy, không bao giờ nói dụ như gọi nói mấy bà bầu là không có uống mấy cái thuốc lặt vặt mà cái thuốc lộn xộn không bao giờ uống. Dù cho ở Việt Nam là ở Mỹ, phụ nữ Việt Nam và gia đình Việt Nam là có bầu là không có uống thuốc tùm lum, đặc biệt là thuốc over the counter không uống. Quý vị thấy đúng không? Nếu đúng cho số 1 là người Việt mình á, người Việt mình có bầu rất là hạn chế uống thuốc, hầu như không dám uống thuốc luôn á.
There's a statement that was put out by the American College of Obstetricians.
Chỉ uống thuốc dưỡng thai thôi, uống thuốc bổ thôi, chứ không bao giờ mà dám uống thuốc trị bệnh nữa.
Safe, trusted option for pain relief during pregnancy, and that's at odds with what you said and with what many of the experts say. How do you?
It's the establishment. That's the establishment. They're funded by lots of different groups, and you know what? Maybe they're right. I don't think they are, because I don't think the facts bear it out at all. They're fighting for something that, in my opinion, they shouldn't be fighting for. But here's the thing. There's no downside to doing, other than a mother will have to, as I say, tough it out a little bit. There's no downside to doing this. It's not like, oh, if you do this, you're going to die. There's no downside. There's no downside to going over a 4-year or a 5-year period or a 3-year period, or even if you space them out for 6 months, you space it out. There's no downside. And that's why I will say the gentlemen behind me, they have very strong views and they feel that we're right, but they'll have more research done over the next 2 months. I said, well, 2 months is a long time. A lot of people could be saved, and there's no downside to doing it. Everything I said, there's no downside to doing it. It can only be good. And I think you're going to see very good results. That's establishment stuff, and we've been reading that about a lot of things for years. And you know what's happened? We've gone from 1 in 20,000 to 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 32 to 1 in 10. Think of it. 1 in 10 or 12 or 1 in 31. Think of it. 1 in 31 people, young kids, get autism? What is it, Jeff?
My question is about leucovorin. You mentioned that as part of your plan. That is also a chemotherapy treatment. Have you been in touch with the drug companies to
Why don't
increase
I have the
production
doctor
about
answer that?
And just, I'm going to throw in my follow-up at the same time. Dr. Oz mentioned that this will be available with CHIP, children who are on CHIP. But the big
ai mà có
bill
con
reduced
bị
funding for CHIP and Medicaid
được
by $1
được cái
trillion
bảo
over
hiểm
the next
chip
10
á,
years. Are you
thì
concerned that that will impact your
sẽ
ability
được
to
cái
get
thuốc
this done?
leucovorin.
Thank you. Leucovorin is not a chemotherapy, but it is a vitamin given with chemotherapy sometimes. And the idea here
Thuốc
is
này
that
không
the
có
folic
phải
acid
là
receptor in the
hóa
brain is
trị
blocked by some
trị
antibody
ung
response.
thư,
Might
mà
be
nó là một
20,
loại
40,
vitamin,
50% of kids with
vitamin
autism.
dành cho
And leucovorin
cái
will
thuốc hóa
bypass
trị
that
thôi.
blocked receptor. And that's why so many doctors are probably seeing so much clinical improvement on kids with leucovorin.
Production.
Yeah, we've been in touch with the companies, and they are prepared to ramp up production, and we actually talked to them about a month ago.
And on your second part of your nasty question, the number is that the great big beautiful bill, which is the greatest, I think one of the best things ever passed in the history, with the tax cuts and regulation cuts and all of the things it does, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, all of it does. It also gives $200 million, as just explained by Dr. Oz, and I'd like you to explain that, Doctor, to exactly what you're saying.
The Big Beautiful Bill actually increases Medicaid spending projected over the next 10 years by $200 billion. There's also a $50 billion Rural Health Transformation Fund, which will allow a lot of these programs to get in the rural parts of the country that the President and Congress are handing to governors to start distributing. Those grants have already gone out. The money will be allocated by the end of this calendar year. And I want to point out that the ability of NIH to do research that feeds and hands the ball to the FDA, which then can change labeling to allow Medicaid programs in states to fund this program, will ensure that the things that President Trump and Secretary Kennedy desire are financially affordable for the families around America. Well, most of the kids are on Medicaid, probably 43% on Medicaid, another 8-10% on CHIP, and all the programs in general are being evaluated. Most
Ai
of
có
what the
con
Big
bị tự
Beautiful
kỷ
Bill was
có thể
seeking to
nghiên
do
cứu
was to
thuốc
remove
này,
fraud, waste, and abuse.
leucovorin.
But the programs themselves should stay financially intact for the people for whom they were designed, and in this case, for children.
And the only thing we cut, so that's 200 billion positive. The only thing we cut was for fraud, waste, and abuse, of which there was a lot in this country, and nobody minds that. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you said that there is no reason to give newborn babies hepatitis B vaccines. But hepatitis B can be contracted not just through sexually transmitted diseases. It can come from needles to open wounds. So when you say you feel, is that appropriate to be telling?
I think it's absolutely appropriate. I think they should wait till they're 12 years old. Yes, please.
You've been talking about reducing autism by spacing out vaccines. Would you like other combined vaccines babies receive to be spaced out like MMRV?
What is this again?
You've been talking.
Speak up, please.
You've been talking about reducing autism by spacing out vaccines.
Right, correct.
Would you like the other combined vaccines babies receive to be spaced out like MMRV?
I would say yes, but that just is, for me, it's a lot of common sense involved in this. It's a process, but we're looking, but it should at least be given separately. Now, it's possible that you can reduce them and I'd give them in small doses, but it's possible maybe in that particular case, the MMR wouldn't work in small doses, but you can certainly give them as separate shots. It's been proven to be very safe when you give them in separate shots instead of mixing. So I don't think there's any reason to do that. Do you agree with it? I'm not a doctor, but I'm giving my opinion. I don't think there's any reason to do that. So it's been proven to be safe when you break them up. But MMR by itself, I've heard bad things about it for many years. Yes, please.
Is the spectrum too broad, in your opinion? For research purposes, you are dealing with a population of children who might have social boundary difficulties, and then you have children who are, going to grow up to be adults in diapers. I mean, what do you think?
We don't know how broad the spectrum is. We don't know exactly where it starts and where it ends, but we do know what we're going through. We're going through some very serious trouble, and we know autism. I mean, it could be bigger, it could be small, a little bit smaller, but the number is unacceptable. And the number, the way it's come down, because the spectrums remain the same, the number, the way it's come down is just unacceptable, meaning come down to that level of 1 in 10, 1 in 12, 1 in 31. Go ahead, in the back.
This question is more directed towards Secretary Kennedy. He's talked about that we're just kind of finding out about the fact that babies are affected this way. Is there a concern that information is being suppressed right now within HHS, and could an investigation perhaps be launched? Well,
I think information has been really not given out very freely over the years, absolutely. And I think that's by drug companies and maybe doctors, but I certainly think that over the years. I think this is a different group. We have a lot of information. And that information, I mean, it's the information that we have that we're making these statements. And I'm making them out front, and I'm making them loud, and I'm making them strongly not to take Tylenol, not to take it. Just don't take it unless it's absolutely necessary, and there's not too many cases where that will be the case. And again, what's the worst? The worst is nothing can happen. It's very positive. That's a positive thing. But I don't believe I don't actually believe that's possible. I think the results are going to be amazing. I want to see amazing results by the time I leave this beautiful building. And I will consider this, I believe, you know, with the wars, I've stopped 7 different wars. I've saved millions of lives. I've done a lot of things. This will be as important as any single thing I've done, because I know ladies, beautiful ladies just like this that are going through the same thing, and it's not easy, and I admire you for being able to do it. But I admire him too. I wish I had a face that looked like that. If I looked like him, I would have been president a long time ago.
Widely used in other countries too. As you make this announcement, do you expect your decision may affect?
I hope
other
they follow
countries?
it, yeah. I hope they follow it. Yeah, other countries are, you know, sell Tylenol. Some countries don't. I mean, I hear Cuba, now, again, you'll have to check this out, but I hear Cuba doesn't have it because it's very expensive. And they don't have the money to have it, or they don't want to spend the money to have it. They don't have Tylenol. And I hear they have essentially no autism. So you'll have to check it out. Yeah, Brian, please.
Medical professionals have warned
No,
for
I said, no, not you. You're CNN, you're fake news. Go ahead, Brian.
I want to go back to the Amish community, if I can, just for a second. I recently saw a man from Minnesota, an Amish man from Minnesota, on a podcast, and the host asked him what the rates were for like ADHD and autism, and he had no idea about ADHD, didn't know it existed, and certainly didn't know of any cases.
It doesn't exist with the Amish community, and they don't take all of this junk. It doesn't exist. That tells you, doesn't that tell you? That's like, you know, that's like certain countries where it doesn't exist and they don't take it. Would you like to make a comment about that, Mark?
The Amish population, a very mixed group, so there's a subset that take vaccines, a subset that does not, and we know they have very low rates of chronic disease all across the board.
Please.
Mr. President, should the establishment media show at least some openness to, you know, trying to figure out what the causes of autism
I wish they would, yeah.
And why are they so closed-minded?
Well, they just, look, it's not only the media, in all fairness, it's some people. When you talk about vaccines, they go crazy. And, you know, I'm a big supporter of vaccines. I got a certain vaccine approved in 9 months that would have taken from 5 to 12 years. I'm very proud of it. A lot of people think it was one of the greatest things I've done, and some people think, mostly Republicans, actually. I'll tell you, the Democrats think it was, they think Operation Warp Speed was one of the greatest things any president has done, any president. It's, you know, we're very proud of what happened. We got hit with something that came from a place that shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. You know, those things take place, and you're very unpleasantly surprised. But no, I'm a big believer in vaccines. The polio vaccine, big believer in vaccines. I know Bobby and you guys have it out a little bit, but he's a believer in vaccines too. But I've seen how great vaccines can be, how incredible they can be. So I'm a believer. Yeah. Yeah, please.
Your comments you made about MMR and hepatitis B, I know you said those were your suggestions, but have you spoken with Secretary Kennedy about actually making those changes?
I have, yeah, I have. I've spoken to all the doctors about it, and doctors that are not here right now. I've spoken to many doctors about everything we're talking about. And, you know, the Tylenol has started to be spoken of over the last period of time, but we've been doing the research. A lot of what they've been speaking about comes from right here, by research done by these people. And I just say it again, don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. And don't give it to your child after your child is born. And do all those other things, little things, just spread out your visits, et cetera, on the vaccine. And I want to thank everybody. This is a very important day. Thank you very much.
Dạ rồi, John Michael sẽ tổng hợp một lần trước khi chúng ta kết thúc chương trình. Hôm nay thì quý vị đã thấy Tổng thống Trump đã cùng với các chuyên gia y tế khuyến cáo những phụ nữ đang mang thai không dùng thuốc Tylenol hoặc là các loại thuốc acetaminophen, các loại thuốc giảm đau, thuốc hạ sốt này kia đó, đặc biệt là Tylenol. Nếu mình chịu được thì đừng uống. Nếu không chịu nổi thì uống đô nhẹ nhất và trong thời gian ngắn nhất. Ha. để con mình không có bị tự kỷ. Con mình còn nhỏ hoặc là mới đẻ ra, tuyệt đối không cho vô cái thuốc đó, Tylenol. Tiếp theo, không chủng ngừa nhiều mũi một lúc cho con mình. Chia ra 4-5 mũi thì đi 4-5 lần, chứ không có một lần đi 4-5 mũi. Và ông cũng sẽ yêu cầu các loại thuốc chủng ngừa phải được tách riêng ra, chứ không có chơi gọi là combo như vậy được, mấy trong một được. Đặc biệt là cái loại MMR là sởi sởi, quai bị và rubella. Rồi cái thuốc chủng ngừa mà viêm gan B, đợi tới 12 tuổi hãy cho chủng ngừa cho con mình. Rồi những người nào mà con bị tự kỷ thì hãy nghiên cứu cái thuốc Leucovorin. Bên Tổng thống Trump đã nói chuyện với các công ty, họ đang tăng cường sản xuất cái loại thuốc này. Và nhà nào mà có con mà được nhận cái chương trình bảo hiểm của CHIP đó, CHIP là của Medicaid đó, thì sẽ được trợ giá cái thuốc Leucovorin này để trị tự kỷ. Đó. Còn ví dụ như là người lớn thì mình ở đây không ai nói gì chuyện người lớn ở đây đó, người ta đang nói về chuyện con nít ha, và phụ nữ mang thai. Còn người lớn muốn uống gì tự người lớn quyết định, nhưng nếu mà là thai phụ thì khuyến cáo không uống Tylenol, và những đứa nhỏ cũng không cho nó uống Tylenol. Chắc chắn là truyền thông sẽ nói ông Trump kêu uống cái này, kêu không uống cái kia, tụi nó sẽ đi chụp mũ ổng nữa. Nhưng mà hãy nghe rõ những gì Tổng thống nói, và đương nhiên phải có sự tham vấn và tự nghiên cứu với bác sĩ. Vậy ha. Dạ rồi. Đó là những gì mà Trần Michael muốn được gửi tới quý vị trong chương trình này. Xin cảm ơn quý vị đã dành thời giờ lắng nghe. Những loại thuốc khác, những cái bệnh khác trong chương trình không nhắc tới, Trần Michael không trả lời. Xin cảm ơn tất cả quý vị.